Hello, class. This is chapter 2, talking about ethics and managing a socially responsible business. And we're going to go into detail of what the difference between ethics versus law. Now, this book, PowerPoint, will go over certain learning objectives, such as what philosophies and concepts shape personal ethical standards. You got to understand that everyone individually have different ethical and moral standards, because those ethical standards of what one thinks is right or wrong depends and shapes by someone's culture, family background, religious influence, and also family influence. How can organizations encourage ethical business behavior? It's the organizational culture that one works in. What that means is, what is the culture of the business that you work for? For example, when someone walks in 15 minutes late, are they reprimanded and also taught that you shouldn't be late? Or is it just ignored, right? And what exactly is corporate social responsibility? How do businesses meet their social responsibilities to various stakeholders? Now, stakeholders means people that have a stake in the business, whether they are investors and they're shareholders to the business, or whether they are employees to that business. They have a stakeholder in that business, meaning that they want to keep their jobs. And what are some of the trends in ethics and corporate social responsibility that affect society and business transactions in terms of way of doing business? All right. Now, here's a case study, and I want you to watch this video and tell me your thoughts in terms of, when you see this, what are your thoughts in this video, and why are they a good corporate citizen?
What does the recognition of being number 3 on the 100 best list mean for you and your company?
So being number 3 is really exciting for us. As with anything in business, scorecards matter. And we have internal scorecards that measure everything that we do across all of our sustainability and business metrics. But it's really very cool to be able to have an external view of our performance. And these ratings and rankings give us that external view so that we can have confidence that the work that we're doing is in fact world-class and is making a difference for our stakeholders, which are our employees, our customers, our investors, the communities in which we operate.
Why is it important to communicate your corporate responsibility practices to external stakeholders, internal and external stakeholders?
In Owens Corning, we're committed to operating our company in the framework of a sustainable enterprise. And that framework has 5 pillars: financial strength, high-performance people, customer-inspired innovation, operational excellence, and world-class sustainability. And for all 5 of those, we have internal metrics and scorecards, and the opportunity that we have with external rankings is to get a view into those on how the outside world sees we're performing there. We make our business decisions inside that sustainable enterprise framework. And because of that, as you can imagine, our shareholders, our stakeholders, have a need, in fact, I would say an expectation, that they have visibility to how we're making decisions inside that framework.
Which sustainability initiative from 2017 makes you the proudest?
One was the expansion of our healthy living wellness initiative in our company. And that expansion, where we've taken on an aspiration of eliminating lifestyle-induced disease, I think has the possibility 10 years from now for us to look back and say, in 2017, when we expanded and amplified the work in that area, we changed the lives of our employees, their families, and potentially the communities forever in a very positive way and improve their quality of life. So I think that's one that we will see years from now as being transformational. The other one is that we did some very interesting work in 2017 to create a new certification, working with a third-party certification agency for products that are made exclusively 100% with wind power electricity and reduce embodied carbon. And I think that, and my hope is that that will be transformational in the sense of creating a market pull for climate action.
These rankings rely heavily on corporate transparency. We can't measure performance, as you know, without seeing what's happening. Can you tell us about how transparency has improved your corporate sustainability performance at Owens Corning?
It gives you an opportunity to candidly look at your company, look at your performance, to be exposed in putting that in front of the world. And that's, I think, the magic inside corporate transparency and sustainability reporting, is it provides an opportunity for us to really understand and make a difference for our customers, for our employees, for the communities, for our investors.
There are often trade-offs with the financial costs up front of getting started, but we often argue that the sustainability program helps on the financial return side as well. Do you have specific examples or metrics that you use to show the financial benefit of a robust sustainability program?
Yeah, one of the questions that we often get asked is, what is the financial return of your sustainability program? And I would tell you that for me, that's actually the magic of corporate sustainability in a for-profit company, is that there's an expectation of producing financial strength while trying to drive an environmental or a social agenda. And while it may be sort of counterintuitive, that when you create additional constraints on a problem, you actually increase the creativity of the folks trying to solve that problem. So when we layer on an expectation of financial results or financial performance to some environmental program that we're trying to institute that may be like a reduction in carbon emissions from our operation, or a social program that might be like our wellness program, when we layer on that requirement of financial impact, we tend to get very much more creative solutions because of that.
So what do you have planned for 2018?
Yeah, so 2018, as we do every year, is a very full agenda. We've got some very exciting things that we're working on safety, our continuous drive to zero injuries in our company, on wellness, our aspiration to eliminate lifestyle-induced disease. So we've got a lot of work going on, tobacco cessation programs, elevated nutrition, so a host of activities in our wellness arena. In the community area, we're trying to get to 100% of our facilities being actively engaged in their communities in a very formal way to advance the community's goals at the same time as advancing our company goals. We're working to continue to drive down the environmental footprint of our operations, and we're working to increase the sustainability attributes of our products so that we can create a market pull for sustainability in our products and therefore in our operations, and working with our customers and our suppliers up and down the supply chain to help them meet their sustainability goals while at the same time meeting our sustainability goals.
What would you say is one thing that people don't know about Owens Corning's corporate responsibility and sustainability program?
One of the things that people don't know, I think, about our corporate sustainability program is kind of the depth of what we're doing. Our CEO, Mike Thaman, constantly reminds us to not fly too close to the sun. And I think as a result, we have a sort of corporate behavior of wanting other people to talk about us more than we talk about ourselves. And as a result, it's quite common for a new employee to join Owens Corning, and after being with us for 2 or 3 weeks, they'll tell us that they're, quite amazed at the work that we're doing in the area of sustainability that they weren't able to see from our external reporting or from our website.
One word to describe what it means to you to be number 3 on the 100 Best Corporate Citizens list.
When I look at one word to describe how I feel about being on the CR Magazine top 100, and in fact to be number 3 on that list, is handprint. And I say that because being on a list like this that is so reputable, it draws other people to us to understand what we're doing, how we're doing it, and it gives us an opportunity to teach, to collaborate, to learn in a way that we might not otherwise have.
Okay, now that you reviewed the video, make sure that you could copy, press the right click on your desktop and hit copy video. So you could play it on another, on YouTube by yourself and just review it again. And just think about some of the talking points from this video. And here are some questions to consider in your analysis of this case study. And here are some concept checks that you may want to review as we move forward. Now, this table is another case scenario where you have an ethical dilemma used for employee training. And one of the questions, some of the questions to consider is, what are the ethical issues the situation rises? What course of action could Bill take? And describe the ethics of each course. And should Bill confront Dana and Dana's boss? And what would you do in this situation? Now, remember, there are no right or wrong answers, because based on your ethical viewpoint, you come up with a solution. And remember, as I said, your ethics, your moral ground of what you think is right or wrong is influenced by your family influence, religious influence, and cultural influence, right? So there's a huge difference between ethics and law. Ethics is really a should, what you should do. But a law is something that you must do, you must follow, right? For example, when you're driving on the road, when you run a red light, that is considered breaking the law. So it's an infraction, right? So it's a must. You must stop at the red light. An ethical situation is, should you report your friend that your friend was stealing staples from the stockroom? That's an ethical dilemma, right? You shouldn't do that. That's probably breaking in company policy, but it's also an ethical dilemma. It's your friend, but do you report your friend, right? Think about that. Here's another sample of workplace ethics. Here's a video. I'm going to play this for you and just, give it some thought. And remember, always right click to copy the video into a URL on the internet and review it again. Here we go.
And you feel this is equivalent to what we picked out when we first placed the order?
Yes, absolutely. I think it'll hold up just as well as the original, and the color is almost an exact match.
Well, you're the expert. I appreciate your help.
Well, that's what I'm here for. And thank you for being patient with the delays. Some of these higher-end materials, that can be problematic.
Well, I think that takes care of everything. I'll touch base with you again in a few days.
All right. Thank you for your order. We appreciate the business.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Hey, Nancy.
I can't believe you can say all that to his face.
What? Say what?
Well, the delivery date for starters. It wasn't because the supplier messed up.
What's the difference? It's better to blame it on someone else rather than us, right?
Us? Wasn't it you that just didn't get around to placing the order on time? And higher-end materials? You substituted the cheapest stuff in our warehouse. You know the color is off and that it won't hold up as well. At the very least, you should give them the lower rate for that material.
Whatever. Maybe. We'll see. I mean, it's more money for the company and a higher commission for me. It's a win-win.
I just don't see how anybody's winning. Not the company and not you either.
So what would you do in this particular situation, right? Based on this video and the character of Nancy. Would you confront the employee? Would you report them to the boss? What are your thoughts? So some of the questions to consider: workplace ethics. Nancy obviously behaved unethically. What would be the possible reasons for employees to act this way? Although it was given that, more commission, more bottom line for the company, so it's a win-win. But when customers find out, then doesn't the company lose trust from that customer? And would that customer want to do business with a company that they lost faith and trust in? Think about that. So think about your own business in terms of, would you do things and take shortcuts to get money, but in the long run, lose customers, right? And number two, a question to consider is there anything that a small business owners and managers for businesses of all sizes can do to help prevent these kind of actions, right? Obviously, you want to put policies and procedures in place, but outright make it known in your company culture that these unethical behaviors will not be tolerated. Okay. Here's another concept check. What is the role of top management in terms of organizational ethics, and what are some of the code of ethics, right? Remember, the top management is the face of the company, where they are setting standards on how one does business and how one behaves within that company and how one treats their customers. That is something to consider. Okay. All right, here we go. So here are a chart of different types of corporate responsibility when it comes to legal, economical, ethical, and philanthropic, right? Take a look at this and maybe think about what is important in your own company that you may build one day. And in terms of code of ethics, right, these are some sort of set of standards of how one behaves. For example, many real estate professionals that become realtors have a code of ethics on how to conduct themselves as real estate professionals and how one treats the customer in a real estate transaction and how one treats the colleague that is representing the other side of their client in the real estate transactions. Of course, you must have due diligence and have loyalty to your client, but you must have also fair dealings with the opposing side. Now, let's take a look at this video and think about your thoughts on this video as you see this.
CFP Board's Code of Ethics and Standards of Conduct reflects the commitment that all CFP professionals make to high ethical and competency standards. CFP Board's new standards are consistent with our mission and our long-standing advocacy for a fiduciary standard at the federal level. The new standards are also consistent with our strategic priority of holding CFP professionals accountable to rigorous standards and to advocate for fiduciary advice. It was important to us as we were updating the standards to have an inclusive and transparent process. We started with public forums across the country. We had 2 separate comment periods, as well as over 1,000 comments.
The most significant change is the obligation to act as a fiduciary and therefore act in the best interest of the client at all times when providing financial advice. The current standard requires a CFP professional to act as a fiduciary when providing financial planning.
The changes to our standards will help ensure that we maintain the value, integrity, and relevance of CFP certification. CFP certification is more than an education mark. It also serves as a foundation for the public's trust and confidence in CFP professionals. Leading up to the effective date, October 1st, 2019, CFP Board will undertake a thorough process to educate CFP professionals to the obligations they incur in the new standards. CFP Board has impaneled a Standards Resource Commission to help create the guidance for CFP professionals to abide by the new standards.
To learn more about the new Code of Ethics and Standards of Conduct, visit cfp.net/code.
Okay. So, based on this video Code of Ethics, you may want to think about how the text indicates that some people believe that formal codes do help influence better behavior. However, there are some naysayers that think that it's more than just, it's just like a public relations gimmick, right? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's a public relations gimmick, or do you think that there are companies and professionals out there that truly believe in the Code of Ethics and truly believe that going above and beyond service for the client or for the customer is not only just good for business, it's just good human sense of treating each other, right? So think about how, in terms of ethics, you want to treat others how you want to be treated. Okay. So we're going to also talk about a concept check of the 4 components of social responsibility. And you want to think about an example of legal but irresponsible behavior. So here's a case study, and tell me if, and just after thinking about this video, think about the concept checks. So here we go.
As a key player in digital transformation, Capgemini is committed to being a leading responsible company, using its expertise for positive impact. This commitment takes many forms. Concrete actions developed and delivered all over the world by our team members, our clients, and our partners. A strong commitment renewed regularly across all levels of the company. Our actions are focused on 3 pillars to address the major human, societal, and environmental challenges. Diversity first. This topic goes far beyond the notion of gender parity. It is all about attracting and retaining talent, regardless of gender, age, degree, ability, social background, or where they live and work. The inclusive business environment we create is a source of creativity and innovation for our clients. Second pillar, environmental sustainability. We are aware of the issues related to climate change. We are working to reduce our own carbon footprint continuously, including building more environmentally friendly offices and optimizing the travel of our employees. Our actions also include helping our clients meet their own sustainability challenges by leveraging our technology and innovation expertise. Finally, the third pillar, closely linked to our businesses and our expertise, digital inclusion. Women, men, and children in situations of exclusion and inequality benefit from support and training to make digital transformation an opportunity for everyone. Around the world, many of the group's employees devise and participate in digital inclusion programs. And to maximize our impact, we work in collaboration with many partners. In 2018, with these diverse activities, we took an important step forward. Even greater diversity. important reductions in our carbon footprint, and many volunteering projects delivered in collaboration with our clients and partners in many countries. Once again, it is the mobilization of the group's 211,000 team members around the world that makes our commitment meaningful. As architects of positive futures, the group's numerous talents are engaged with passion every day to deliver societal and environmental progress.
Okay, let's move on. Here are some questions to consider from the video, and if you click here, you could see the exhibit of this video. So as you can see, you can click on 2.3 and here's the chart, and it goes back to legal responsibility. All right. Okay. Stop the sharing. Let me show you this chapter in the book again. When you click on that, it takes you directly to this chart, 2.4, and understanding social responsibility. All right. PowerPoint. So going back to the concept check, the code of ethics, we saw the video. We saw this question. And we have this. And now we're into section 4, concept check questions. Take a look at this. Think about the questions at hand. And we're back to Rubicon video, right? Let's take a look at this.
I think to build a healthy, sustainable business that people want to work at, high talented people, you've got to have both, confidence in the business outcome, but more and more, particularly younger generation, they're very mission oriented, which is, I want to be part of a successful business that's financially successful and profitable, but what impact's it having in the world? I think that's quite different than even a generation ago. I think having both sides of that coin is incredibly important. I think a lot of companies out there say they do, because they understand that people want that sort of sense of mission. But in reality, what Rubicon's working on, it's on the streets. It doesn't get any more gritty than this in terms of picking up the cans, but to do it in a more modern way that's enabling more economic opportunity and that really offers the potential to make that whole experience more environmentally friendly. That's a mission most people can get behind.
Rubicon became a certified B Corporation because we wanted to be part of the movement to change the world through the power of business. We were an early B Corp in 2012 and excited to join an amazing group of companies that were mission driven.
I think a big thing that makes Rubicon unique is who works here, because everyone you work with has the same mind frame.
It feels like a real family-oriented type environment, even though you have people coming and going and moving and shaking. Everyone seems to really care about what other people are doing, not just in the workday, but how's your kids, how's your family. So I think that's different from other places I've worked. It was more so business as usual every day other places, but here it's more so business, but we care about you as well.
having a family on our health insurance where we don't have to pay, out of our own salaries is obviously great, especially right now. I'm about to take advantage of another great perk, which is our maternity leave program. What I've noticed through my 5 years here is they're constantly looking at our benefits packages and making sure that they're making improvements. They're following what's important to different generations and making sure that those changes get incorporated into our benefits packages as well, because we want to attract the best talent, and one of the ways to do that is through having great programs.
I lead a program called the Ruba Contributors, and the Ruba Contributors are really responsible for embedding our B Corp values into our daily working lives. We do employee engagement events, community outreach, and community volunteer events.
I think what I like best about working at Rubicon is that there's a lot of room to take your idea and grow it, and you'll find that you have a lot of support from leadership. So while at Rubicon over the last year and a half, I've taken several projects from idea to implementation.
We have the flexibility, the freedom, and the ability to contribute solutions that ultimately allow us to achieve our goal.
Very collaborative, roll your sleeves up and get things done, teamwork environment. The open environment concept makes that a little bit easier. So I love the culture.
One thing I really like about Rubicon is the belief that we're not perfect, but that we strive for perfection. So we don't know all the answers to sustainability, and we openly admit that. But what I love about it is that everyone is so focused on finding those answers. And that's one thing I just really like about the culture here.
This company is based on sound business principles. It's not based on Facebook likes or the number of tweets. And I think over time, a lot of tech companies have gotten away from the fact that your business has to make money first. It has to deliver a good or a product first. And being in Atlanta, we're reminded of that every day. There's great Fortune 500 companies all throughout the city, a very strong corporate infrastructure, a very strong civic environment, and those things come together to kind of motivate us to work a little harder, I think.
We have a huge diversity of talent in a place like Atlanta, so not just demographically, but diversity in thought and perspective. Whereas unlike San Francisco and New York that tend to be bubbles in and of themselves.
For most small businesses, trash is just one of the 30 things that they need to do. And in most cases, a small business owner didn't get into that business to deal with trash or accounting or payroll or everything else that they need to do. So I love that we're able to provide a better service for small businesses that makes it cheaper for them to do business. And then I also love that we're able to go back to these small businesses and help them educate them on how they can actually start recycling programs in their business.
Well, it's something they haven't heard before. Well, we want to see how you recycle, or what you're actually putting in your dumpster, and if it's going to the right places. It's not just going to the landfill. We want to make sure those recyclable goods get to the place they're supposed to be. We're going to save you some money, but the overall goal is to help out your area as well as the planet.
I think Rubicon walks the talk. Internally, we've started an internal sustainability program, so we've implemented reuse, reduction, and recycling programs. Our goal for our office is zero waste, and we have that same goal for our customers and the rest of the waste industry.
Rubicon is like our own field of dreams. People dream something up and then it's brought to reality. Through our technology, it's really exciting to not only see how far we've come in the last couple of years, but where we're going to be a couple of years from now, 5 years from now, and how that's going to continue to change the industry.
It's incredibly invigorating to work at Rubicon because we are solving the global challenge of waste through technology. And what's really exciting for me personally is that we had all of these visions and dreams many years ago, and now it's become a reality.
Being a B Corporation is important for one fundamental reason. It is a demonstrable statement or commitment by a company that it will use its scale and strength to solve a social problem. By coming into this office, by walking into this building, you know that you are contributing to positive change.
We're seeing a trend with young professionals where they don't want to just be another cog in the wheel, right? They don't want to go work for just any other large company solely for financial gain. Not only do we want to work for, a company that's doing cool stuff, but we also want to feel connected, I think, to a larger social mission, and feel like we're contributing to leaving the planet in better shape than it was when we got here.
The landfill-based waste management industry has been about lack of transparency and picking up garbage and taking it to a hole and burying it in the ground. That's the business model. Over-servicing people, not providing daylight on billing, certainly not providing insights into one's trash, right? Out of sight, out of mind is how one thinks about garbage. Until we came along and said, your trash is actually an asset. There's wealth and value in your garbage if only someone would help you understand what's in it and where the valuable pieces are and where the true trash lies. And that's how you close the loop of the circular economy. You find value in the waste, you put that waste back into production as an asset. We can get there. It just takes imagination, it takes creativity, and it takes challenging a landfill-based model.
Okay, let's move on. Here are some questions to consider. And if you click this link, it goes back to the section 2.4. Right? And some concept checks for what is corporate and social responsibility. These are some questions of concept check to think about as we review this. And as you read the textbook and as you review the PowerPoint slides. Okay. That is the end of the PowerPoint slide, right? Remember, as you scroll through the text, right? Read the section of each textbook. Some of the hot links that you could look at, and also some key terms related to chapter 2. Glossary right here. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me via Canvas. If you need a one-on-one Zoom meeting or a group Zoom meeting, come to my office hours. You could either physically be present or we could have a Zoom meeting. And let me know if you got any questions regarding chapter 2. And I hope that this brief summary on chapter 2 and discussion that I'm having on this video will help you in your learning. And hopefully the textbook that you're reading will also guide you. Okay? Thank you very much for your time. I'm going to stop sharing and have a good day.